Last 60 seconds. I'm going to mute everybody. Hang out. Use the chat if you need to. Start it in 1 minute. Hip Logic by Terrence Hayes. Some shoot the soft, bloodless heads of basketballs, shoes filled with darkness, skulls and dragons stitched into biceps, no standing still. Some cruise with detachable faces on their radios, the grief latent in speed limits and zip codes, the evening between evenings. Stalls with locked doors, some leave their car windows cracked and a boom, boom, boom rustles the neighborhood. No standing still. The law says no stone will go uncrushed. It won't make the news. Some will be set free for lack of evidence or imprisoned despite it. Trying to catch the soul here? Like trying to slow light down to a trot? Some dress in women's arms, perpetually groomed and grooming. Hips are the cradle of logic. Sperm hop in the trenches, blessed with an ageless memory. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Madmouth Poetry. We present Black Poets Matter. Thank you all for being here. First and foremost, my name is Cyrus Sepabodi. I'm the mad person that's been drinking coffee like a addict and talking to you all. Madmouth Poetry is a alliance of multicultural poets who have come together to produce this event, Black Poets Matter, which is a curated poetry series. Our goal is to center and amplify Black and multiracial voices within our communities and beyond. This is born from the Black Lives Matter movement as a call to action because we are tired of seeing poetry readings with all white lineups. We are diverse as a people and we are diverse as a poetry group. So we are so happy to have you here. Tonight we have Kevin Dublin in the house as our featured poet. We also have performances by Jesse Tovar, as well as our lovely Jade L.M. Harvey. Both are in the house. For our open segment, we have multiple poets on the list. I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes. Jesse and Jade, you have 10 minutes. Kevin, rock us for 30 minutes. Just blow the roof off. That's what we're here for. A few things before we introduce our first performer. Everybody's going to be on mute for the duration of the reading. I apologize in advance. This is done to avoid noise interruption, to respect our readers. That's number one. Respect your readers and respect yourselves. This is an equal space, and we want to show some love. If you want to celebrate a line, type it in the chat. When a poem is done, use your snaps or use the American Sign Language equivalent for clapping. That's shaking your hands up and down. Everybody give it a try. It's really fun. You can add a little jazz hands to it. So, a couple more things. This is not a paid reading. It is a labor of love. However, we like to open up donations for our featured poets. That means if you really enjoyed Kevin's work, check out the links that we drop in the chat for him. We will place his Venmo as well as his PayPal in the chat. If you can tip him, that would be wonderful. If you can't, just drop him a line, show him some love. He's here to perform for you. Also, respect is a priority. Disrespect towards poets, hosts, or each other will not be tolerated. For example, do not make fun of anyone for their appearance, style, identity, or race. Yes, racial slurs will not be tolerated. If they are spoken or typed in any derogatory form, you will be asked not to return and swiftly booted out of the reading. So that goes without saying, I think. But with that being said, I want to welcome you all. First up to the stage is Jesse Tovar. Jesse loves to travel all over the US, including Mexico and El Salvador, visiting friends and family. His poetry and other writings are typically fixated on one-on-one hangouts and occasionally touch on the concept of celebrity. You can read his work at Cal Poly Pomona's Harvest International, Pomona Valley Review, and the pen name newspaper, where he's known as Thomas Till. Please welcome Jesse Tovar.
There we go. Hello, everyone. So I'm so grateful to be here with Madam of Poetry. I saw the last event and it was great. It was awesome seeing like all those multiple screams at once on Facebook. I'm gonna start off with my first poem, which is in Harvest in their spring 2020 issue, and it is titled "When They Grab a Light Beer." When they grab a light beer together again, they will sit together. They won't share fries. They will talk, and they won't poke each other's arms. They will laugh, and they'll try their best not to touch their faces. They will eat cashew cheese pizza together again. Before they go their separate ways, they will say later instead of side hugging or bumping fists. All right, so my next piece is an unpublished piece. It's a prose poem, as I call it. Um, it's about an actor. His name is Caden Boyd, and I actually co-wrote this with a Christian kid. He appears in the pen name as Jake Nikolai Chuck, and this is titled "A Short Unspoken Talk on Seeing Caden Boyd at Coffee Commissary." June 2020. So I left the commissary in Burbank where I saw Caden Boyd on his Mac laptop. This is unreal after the shutdown because not too long ago, I saw this man on The Resident opposite Mac Zucri. After ordering my ice cubano, I have a talk with him because I'm like, are my eyes deceiving me? Wearing a surgical mask, he says he's happy that commissary has its tables available for leisure again because he misses having coffee and being on his laptop there. Boyd had a pour over served in a mug. I said something along the lines that I am too, because old normal and new normal are uniting. Boyd laughs because I speak Christianese, which he's quite fluent in. I add that I can't wait for the day Mantra Coffee is open till midnight again. Boyd asked me if I go to APU. I said I have friends that go there. Maybe he was quickly trying to connect how I know Christianese by bringing up APU because I brought up Mantra. I asked Boyd if he's looking forward to the studio's reopening. He says yes because this shutdown took him out of work and he's excited about auditioning again. Then I hear the barista raise her voice saying ice cubano. Before I grab it, I say to Caden, good luck and have a good day. He says you too. I don't look back as I place the plastic cup in my right hand and don't turn my head around until I exit. I'm in shock because I'm always shocked whenever I see and speak to celebrities. In my car, I think about what Brie Larson once said, which is, quote, seeing any sort of moment your whole life, you see this separate thing where it's like it lives on this physical screen. Then you get to look in the screen. That's just pretty cool. Pretty surreal. In my car, I realized Caden Boyd and I clicked because we spoke a language belonging to a group that is becoming mainstream thanks to Ye and the Beebs. Okay, and my last piece is actually a prose piece. I guess this is kind of like a letter. This letter is to the owner of Joshua Tree Coffee, and the owner's name is Royce Robertson. And it's titled "Here's to You, Mr. Robertson. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 2 years ago when we first met in LA. Maybe it was last year. Where, you wonder? Practically next to Lafayette Park. The spot we were both at is a short walk, bike ride, or scooter ride from Koreatown or MacArthur Park. It's also a short drive, Uber or Lyft ride, or bus ride to downtown, that part. I said you have cool tats, especially the one on your left arm. The vibrant hanging from the leaves coffee fruit with the caffeine molecule diagram below. You explained your inspiration and reasoning for getting that work of art on your left arm. You then revealed to me you're a roast master. I must have said, that's awesome. In my convoluted thoughts recalling when we met and had conversation, I thought you said you grow coffee, too. One thing I clearly remember, Joshua Tree Coffee. I probably mentioned that Selena filmed the Amor Prohibido music video at Joshua Tree National Park. We probably talked about hiking and rock climbing too. Our conversation more than likely focused on dirty chai, espresso and OJ, espresso y limon, alcoholic coffee drinks, and CBD and coffee. I'm sure you have endless conversations about limitless coffee combinations. In short, you expressed your passion for coffee, and I was fascinated. Roastmaster, correct me if you can, but you might have said something about a family business. Small businesses can feel like family, in my opinion. In fact, I used to work for a family-owned business. You met me on a Friday night after I got off work. Since that day we met, I have visited a few coffee roasting bars from Altadena to Riverside. I even hit up a coffee roaster place across from CBS Television City during my shift. There's also one next to Beach Spa I went to as well. What I like about those particular spots is that the workers act like family, in my opinion. Sometimes I try and get to know the people behind these craft coffee shops. Although I reference a popular Simon and Garfunkel tune, I thank you, Royce. You made me aware of the time-consuming work of a roastmaster. You taught me that a roastmaster needs to be passionate in order to make an outstanding cup of coffee, whether it's traditionally brewed, espresso-based, cold brew, nitro-infused, or pour-over for coffee-loving drinking lovers. You are the reason why I love and support coffee roasting bars. Before I met you in LA, I thought coffee roasting and coffee beverage making were separate endeavors. I looked up Joshua Tree Coffee a few days before my visit. Seemingly, the baristas act like family. Plus, I learned you don't grow coffee. Perhaps coffee growing was brought up between us because we were listening where coffee is grown around the world, including the United States. On President's Day weekend, I finally drove to Joshua Tree and emptied my gas tank. You weren't at your brick and mortar when I went because you were probably hiking, rock climbing, or simply enjoying your long weekend elsewhere. I waited in a long line that moved fairly quickly, met some of the Joshua Tree Coffee fam, and bought a nitro cold brew, and it was worth it. Really smooth. Whenever I saw people holding cups from your store in town, I asked what they got and if they tried the nitro cold brew. A man even had me take a sip of his iced latte from your store. That reluctant moment was hilarious. When I returned to my car, I feared I would be stuck in Joshua Tree. After putting the key in the ignition, I drove westbound on the 62 until I reached a chevron where someone gave me a 20 after waiting there for nearly 20 minutes. I know I could have bought your roasted beans at Erewhon, but I wanted to physically be at the place where it all started, the place where you had you mark your love for coffee on your left arm. Someday we will meet again. Well, I'd like that. If you recognize me and if I came off really weird that Friday night, I apologize. For now, I'm just one of countless people you've met in LA. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm, I'm not a coffee addict at all, but thank you so much for your pieces there. I'm absolutely obsessed with coffee, and I really appreciated your work tonight. We're gonna go ahead and drop some links to where you can find Jesse and connect with him online in the chat. So look out for him. On deck, our feature reader Kevin. I would like to now introduce Jade Louise Monica Harvey, born and raised in Los Angeles. Jade is a multi-ethnic woman from an African-American family. She's both an avid reader and a writer, focusing on short stories, poetry, and political pieces. She believes that these outlets can serve as a lifeline for communities otherwise unable to communicate their experiences. In the last 5 years, she has published several pieces in the California State University Dominguez Hills. What up, Dominguez Hills? Literary magazine, and Jammed. And she has been featured in an article for local poets titled Now and Then with 2 other well-known professors. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jade Harvey.
Sorry, unmuting. My name's Jade Harvey, and this first thing is a bit of lyrical. Well, it's a bit experimental, actually. Let's get in. She walks through time and days of old, her footsteps soft yet ever bold. G, the she-beast, speaks with candor. Lesser creatures feast and gather round her, to gander at the fatted pig whose hapless labor brought him, begging, to the butcher's door. For the hogs are all in saddle, having carved up all the cattle, ridden here, then off to battle, leaving sows to wander, wild and weeping, with their young, mum or numb or sleeping, lying forlorn, still and on the floor. Now, lion, lamb, and eagle having seen it, having heard the tale, they cut and clean it. He, the pig, the carcass, his fat and lean, it meat dealt fat for fit, all told bit by bit. Well, he came in parts to 24. Yet, lesser creatures feast and gander at the fatted pig whose hapless labor, happy here the beasts will pander. Naked, pallid, poor, ruddy, bloody boar, brought and begging on the butcher's floor. Sows and piglets here must split, bone and marrow, spite and spit. Lions, lambs, now full to rip, leave word of warning, nothing more. This next one is called Panopticon, and I would just like to say it is in part reverential to the one and only Emily Autumn, for anybody who knows who she is. Panopticon. Dirty little fuckers on every corner wait, downing all their uppers while you come to meet your fatally hysteric. She's lost it yet again. Pills are made for panic. There just aren't made for. Pain is that part of beauty, and beauty part of life. Learn to do your duty as a quiet, loving, with just judges that are shrewd. The money plays the game. Money all being skewed. Know that judgment is the. Sorry, I must tell you that bad news is threefold. Acquittal is in view. Verdicts are easily. See the men around her pretending not to know. Make it all seem better. Make the danger seem to. Giving all their prospects, their expectations too. Hiding all the suspects. Never saying who is. While men are the favored, we've seen it all before. While the rest are labored, they must start another. What rhymes cannot tell you is how to save a life. So hope it is not you they screw out of love and out of life. For anyone who's wondering, that's also a rhyming game. This one is also a bit of an ode to Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, that one, everyone knows that name. Nevermore, quoth the raven, nevermore. To the murdered in their haven, to the mighty and the craven, to the corpses slowly tapping, to the crew that's always rapping, nevermore. As we run the midnight clock up and down, the tick and talk, as silent scythes still slice, down we go under the ice, filled to bursting with fear. Fear of those long lost, fear of future and its cost. Unborn, undead, and yet not alive, but for mothers, weighed down with scythes, with White faces and whiter wives, white waters and whiter knives, blacker knaves and naive lies, full of thoughts of better lives. Boyhood, blood, with fewer tales, or lead-lined storms and siren wails, calling fallen comrades home where the barren boxes bloom, and the lads home, whole and hale, live another tragic tale, till father, brother, other lay in rest forevermore. Nevermore, nevermore. See the dead men all a-lying, with the living slowly dying, and the corpses done with trying, and the crosses all aligned with the raven. Crafty matte black bird of war, dancing, flying in our gore, with no bias but for more. Quoth the raven, nevermore, as her blooded, hooded form gapes, dripping sinew on the floor, joining talons in the storm, in the ripping, roaring score. Music made in anger graven on souls enslaved evermore. She, with happy tapping cravings, filled with angry ranting ravings, by the book she shot and took them, torn and shorn and left unmourned. She shook them still, one and all, and the black is all they saw forevermore. Thank you.
No more, Jade? No more? Expected at least 4. All right. Jade, thank you so much for being here tonight. Where can we connect with you online? Are you on social media?
I am on social media as Jade's Jewels. But honestly, if you want to get in touch with me, email is always best. It's jadesjewels@gmail.com, all lowercase. I don't overcomplicate things.
Awesome. Well, if you could just drop your email in the chat for us, reach out to Jade. She's awesome. I really appreciated how much tension you built in within your lines because of the rhyming. And you know, it always feels good to have that regular cadence that's played with. So thank you, Jade. All right, the time is now, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Dublin is the author of the chapbook, How to Fall in Love in San Diego, by Finishing Line Press, and editor of Etched Press. He has been the recipient of fellowships, grants, and awards from the Center for Cultural Innovation, Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing, and the North Carolina Poetry Society. His words have recently appeared in the Cincinnati Review, the Racket, North Carolina Literary Review, and more. He holds an MFA from San Diego State and enjoys teaching emerging writers in the community, making video adaptations of poetry, and developing web apps for writers. What up? Kevin leads the workshops as a part of Litquake's Elder Writing Project and all over the Bay Area. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kevin Dublin.
Still muted, I think. Okay. I don't have unmuting power. I was like, thank you. That was a great introduction, and shout out to other literary programmers, Cyrus. But since there's tons of time, I thought I could maybe begin it all with a poem that's not mine. I love that Hip Logic poem and that whole book by Terrence Hayes. Cyrus, thank you for sort of getting us started off with that. And I think I'll actually start with one of my first favorite poets and one of my first favorite poems, Jade kind of got me in the mood for this too, when thinking about like who I was reading alongside: Edgar Allan Poe, Langston Hughes. So this poem, definitely in spirit of some of the poems I'm going to read later tonight, but The Weary Blues by Langston Hughes. Droning a drowsy syncopated tune, rocking back and forth to a mellow croon, I heard a Negro play. Down on Lenox Avenue the other night, by the pale, dull pallor of an old gas light, he did a lazy sway. He did a lazy sway to the tune of those weary blues. With his ebony hands on each ivory key, he made that poor piano moan with melody, oh blues. Swaying to and fro on his rickety stool, he played that sad, raggy tune like a musical fool, sweet blues, coming from a black man's soul, oh blues. In a deep song voice with a melancholy tone, I heard that Negro sing that old piano moan. Ain't got nobody in all this world, ain't got nobody but myself. I was going to quit my frowning and put my troubles on the shelf. Thump, thump, thump with his foot on the floor. He played a few chords, then he sang some more. I got the weary blues and I can't be satisfied. Got the weary blues and can't be satisfied. I ain't happy no more and I wish that I died. And far into the night he crooned that tune. The stars went out and so did the moon. The singer stopped playing and went to bed, while the weary blues echoed through his head. He slept like a rock or a man that's dead. That was the Langston Hughes. All right, so I'll jump into some poems. So this first poem is, if you see in the thing, there's some like, oh, there are some drafts, there are some from the chapbook, there are some just unpublished ones, but this is a draft for my son. It's called An Entrance for Darien. This afternoon, while July sunlight pours like syrup onto the page of my poetry I'm revising, I can't decide whether to cut a nigga from a poem about growing up. The front door opens and my 11-year-old son comes home from his first solo walk to the corner store. Brown bag in hand, one shade darker than his own skin. As he empties the milk carton and candy, I ask how it went. It was fine, but a man was taken from the entrance while mumbling something about God and niggers. I look up, see him bite recklessly into an unwashed gala apple and ask if he's all right. He smiles. I understand it was something in him, not me. I don't need to talk about it. At least I think he says one of those, or Baldwin did. It's hard to hear through chewing, and while he walks away to his room, I remember what Milena Morling wrote. Your child is a door afloat on invisible hinges, so I approach it on the paper. I remember the light through the window will become heat in my body that I'll eventually let go. I read the line with nigga aloud, and I leave it alone. So that's that poem. Now I'll jump into a couple from the chapbook. So this is Tinder profile, short one. I am not a good lover, although I suggest it, and every love poem is the absence of a black man face down on pavement, pimple on his left cheek, grazed to hot pink. How to Fall in Love in San Diego. Eat blackberry brie bites between two fingers at a Crash Hilton party between the harbor and convention center. Dance to an all-white Otis Redding cover band in Hawaiian shirts. Put it to the dueling, Piano bar only after security checks for lanyards. Give the bartender a large tip and advice that changes his life. Flirt with a Swedish accent. Pretend you're here for a wedding unless you're actually here for a wedding. Then pretend you're here post-divorce. Whisper in a cute brunette's ear that her girlfriend is gorgeous. But hug the doorman. Learn his name the way Goldilocks tastes porridge, gingerly. Tap 3 strangers and ask for the restroom in a foreign tongue from Perdón, ¿dónde está el baño to have you seen the loo? Be a noble experiment. Tell all hostesses Liam sent you. Ask why they don't know him. Text any number in your phone and change the name to Liam. Get addresses of the cutest women and never visit them. Snag the Uber app. Ask where the driver's pink mustache is. Tell them you heard Hillcrest was fun, but you'd rather drive to an apartment. Any apartment they have keys to. Stir gasps in distant rooms through every land, on every tongue. Heed Cabby's command. Make me forget we swoon in a desert. So that's one of the How to Fall in Love in San Diego poems. There's a couple throughout the collection that play with different things. But with that, my idea was like, oh, what is the San Diego that people see when they usually go to San Diego and they're not there? And it's like just Gaslamp downtown, which is, the sort of some of the silliness in that poem is sort of comes from like, oh, where do you go when you want to, or like, oh, I want to be around people who are just visiting. You go to Gaslamp. Another How to Fall in Love in San Diego poem. How to Fall in Love in San Diego. A couple cuddles tongues on the corner of 5th and Market. The meeting shades sun rays that heat the rain puddle. A man waits to wash his hands in. This is another poem from there. A little much different vibe. The chapbook is called Coming of Age in a Failed Platonic Love Story, but it's from a series of poems working on that are like tentatively titled Growing Up Shelter. But this is one of the older ones. I remember us having so much fun you took a dump behind an oak tree because you didn't want to walk home. It was fall, and you described the leaves' cold scratch as if it were trying to pick thick pudding from a tight space, spoon brittling away between fingertips from the weight. For several days, we'd watch the white ritual of it harden, let scavengers pick at it like cruel punishment for knowing we put it there. 6 months after, you invited me to my first cipher. An impromptu group of hoodies and windbreakers leaning against gymnasium walls like living graffiti. See, there was this one guy, Green Eyes. He was left behind so many times he was twice the size of the next cat. Had a mustache, not peach fuzz, but the real kind you couldn't cut with bear clippers. He was the type of light skin you wouldn't call an African booty scratcher because it was too improbable when his bars reflected him too. Hey, yo, like Bishop from Jew shooting her lair, so I'm messing with you. Crazy dog, skin cat, or think it can rap. Here's 5 bullets for you. Blah, 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 blah. Take that. A son passing his shoes. And the crowd oohed like they'd heard him up for the first time as he walked the line, stomping the aluminum of each lyricist's pride. It got to the point that nobody had anything to offer him, so he twisted his snap cap back forward, and we all wafted in its silence. Till my cousin spit lines that mean stuff about how I'd peed the bed piss bucket next to mattress so I wouldn't miss, and most of it wasn't true. I was about to not be 10 and I knew what he was doing. High school clicklessness was not cool. These guys were. Green Eyes is. Irises widening with each bar stymied in front of me. And I knew I should take it. These cats didn't even know my name. I could only rap along. The Tates had no rep and went to a different school. Plus, they had never seen me nearly naked or palmed a conversation that may have changed my life. You want to end up like the brothers down at Peabody's house, fool. That was it, but still I kept crack kills closer than the cereal bowl on Saturday morning during Dragon Ball Z. usually next to you, and here you were transitioning from you, static glider high. It was shocking. And when you said the line about my dead mama, I wanted to cry. Throat stomp you against pavement and cry. I wanted to say we grow up and always be in touch. If there was an entire country between us, it would be nothing. Your opinion, like glitter, impossible to get rid of, except it was useful. This wasn't the last Saturday. I'd embrace you first after each child was born, miss you the way clouds miss rain and plead to sun evaporate. I eulogize you when you died, break a pact, tell a congregation about the time you dropped the deuce behind an oak tree, the first acknowledgement of it ever between my lips. Instead, I mentioned it in a terrible freestyle that barely rhymed to 9 dudes who meant nothing to me, but were everything to you. And like going through that, I just remembered something. Shout out to Carla for feedback on that. I'm like, as going through, I was like, I specifically remember comments and feedback that she sort of gave on that poem when it was being drafted. So thank you. Another short one. This poem is actually this poem is actually a poem. It's called Each Morning. There's a piece of visual art that goes along with this. I'm just going to drop the link to someone's Instagram at Donovan made that, Donovan Brutus. So let me see, Donovan made that. There it is. So yeah, definitely check out his Instagram. And if you see that, that piece there, this was illustrated after we sort of collaborated on this piece when he did all the art, because that's amazing. But this is the poem that inspired it. Each morning, my skin is so dark it makes night against your body, my body, your first evening. Super short. And if I'm recalling correctly, this is actually a poem that's like I believe is an imitation or something sparked it, a poem by Valgina Mort, who is a amazing poet from Belarus. And there's definitely in some tough times right now. And so if you don't know about what's going on, there's it's one of the things where you're like, oh, democracy is sort of, threatened, but it's like not even, democracy. But definitely, send some positive energy, vibes, love, or, what you can for, brothers and sisters over in Belarus. Argument. This poem is not in fact going to a few poems that are not in the chapbook at all. This was a quiet lightning sparkling blank. Shout out to all the amazing writers who I've been grateful to share pages and stages with there, and Evan Karp and all what everyone is doing there. So argument. Today, a police officer will kill a Black man. He will shoot him as easily as mistaking a lover's name. There is no court of law for intention. It fails every time. This morning, while I pulled my sock just past the heel of my foot in the middle of an argument about privilege, I called you by my ex-wife's name. I was rushed. It wasn't because of you. I meant to say, baby. I drew the curtain open. The sun stood up to the window, obscuring your features. You are unarmed, and that name is a bullet. The officer will look into dying brown eyes and be unable to explain. So that's a poem about misspeaking, and now a poem about not speaking, moving. This poem is a duplex, which is a form invented by Jericho Brown. Shout out to the Tradition, winner of the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry. It is amazing. If you haven't read it, read it. And this form is one he invented, and sort of 7 of them throughout the book, and working on a series of them now. This is the first, or at the moment it's the first. Moving. This time I bite my tongue unceremoniously, make the taste of 2 cents my own. Nigger demands blood even if it's your own. It's morning the first time I'm compared to darkness. You so black, midnight mistakes you for later. Compared to darkness, how am I supposed to not let it overtake me? I strike first whenever anger overtakes me. I'm nothing like him, but I take after my father. Whether boys admit it or not, we take after our father's sins. I slam that boy's head into the window a dozen times. Let the new bus know I am not one who plays the dozens. Times like these, you kill the loudest crow to end the whole murder. These days, they don't say nigga, silent the whole murder. Today, fight right, bite your tongue unceremoniously. Another newer piece. It's called at the moment Black Tantalus, and if you know, Tantalus in Greek mythology is known for his punishment, kind of like Prometheus. He went and stole ambrosia from the gods, or he didn't steal it, he had access to it. I think he was one of Zeus's kids, and then gave it and shared it with people who weren't supposed to have it. And his punishment was that he was it's like wow, he had to stand in water that came up to, like, I think it was like just below his chest, or yeah, just like at his chest. And then he was below a tree with low hanging fruit. And for all of eternity, anytime he tried to reach down with his head to sip water, the water would get lower. And anytime he tried to reach higher with his mouth open to get the fruit from the tree, it would get higher. So that's where, like, the origin or etymology of the word tantalize. So Black Tantalus. I must learn to love myself in this country as tenderly as dew on a spider's empty web holds sunrise, like seeking ambrosia, a reminder of impermanence and hunger. I want to know if Neptune's slippers are real flowers or something my mind made up in a dream. Dream full of paw prints zipping through a desert while I died vomiting bullets and tear gas into moon wake of an oasis at sunset. The silent end of a lit cigarette oranges on my balcony. A police chief on TV says he regrets the recent loss of life, and I almost believe him. How do you reconcile yourself with another's imagination? Exhale smoke so deeply you fog the whole San Francisco Bay. Place droplets onto windshields. Leave questions on the lips of children to their mothers. What is blackness? Do not tell them it is fire to the fuse of white fear. Do not tell them it is the lit wick of a candle held at vigil, but want to. Mouth agape for invisible food, a reminder. Being a parent to a Black child is but 1 part truth and never 3 parts survival. Tell them blackness is a struck match with a flame everlasting. Tell them some folks are so afraid of burning that they try to extinguish what brings light. Each evening. So this is another poem. Donovan made that. This is another poem. I will drop a link in here. Bam. Did I? I maybe pasted it. Oh yes, Tantalus did. Yeah, he had a banquet and fed the gods a person. That's true. That's in. Yeah, that was definitely a whole thing, which was like forbidden. That yeah, Tantalus was wild. But this is a piece. Also, Donovan made that each evening. Each evening, face me. We've made our daily wars. Let's both leave enemies at the front line. I'll kiss you. Kiss again. Accept kisses from our large, warm lips. Survival. Under clear night sky. Survival. Drinking gourd spilling onto our complexions till our whole bodies are kin to shadow. Each evening, like Rorschach ink blots, lips lock, you black, you beautiful. One more thing about that Black Tantalus poem, I just remembered, just because I want to shout this out. For some reason in my head, the sample, well, not sample, because it was like, I think it was originally recorded for that song, but a song called, it's called What's Wrong by Isaiah Rashad off, I don't know if it was his last album or the one before that. That's always in my head. So if you know that, definitely shout out to Isaiah Rashad. Maybe I'll because what time? I think began, I have like, what, 5, 10 more minutes? How time? Cyrus, on time. I should have been paying closer attention. Okay. I will then maybe do just 2 more. This, who knows? This is I read this a piece by Hal Jaffe. Shout out to Hal Jaffe, or Harold Jaffe, who's a professor at San Diego State, and I love Hal's work. He is always questioning things, but he had a piece thing that he just sort of posted on Facebook, and it's called American Speak, and so I needed to get in some lines for the day, and I wrote this Speak American for Martin, Baldwin, and McCarroll after Hal Jaffe, and there's a quote by Marshawn McCarroll: "My demons won today." And if you don't know who that is, do a Google. A dying empire that refuses to give itself a lifeline from other side of its self-assigned binary, while wild-eyed from the sidelines, right lines to try and find like-minded citizens to lift each other up. Give them their trunk and watch them lit up. Give them their Biden and watch them give up. Give up and stuck in the muck of that smooth exceptionalism either way. I heard Hal say, he heard him say, they said, that's just how it is. And they say, what have we done to deserve this? We ain't used to being sick. And they ain't said ish sense. We the people that made sense cause they fix lips and pens to lie. I hold these truths to be self-evident. Them some effing liars. Been lying and we've been lied to. So till we decide to dissolve these lies and political bands which connect us, we some liars too. What do? When you black and disagree with this country, it kills you, or you must leave, or you die inside. And sort of to end it. So there's each morning, each evening. This is each night, an elegy. Also on Quiet Lightning stage, Anna and Sparkle and Blink. I believe, Christina's here. So shout out, who's also been, another Quiet Lightning, author, not Arthur. Arthur's here, but author. Each night, analogy for Saritha Blackwell. And for Katie Lowen. Lover, when lying on our backs in bed, and when no other parts of our bodies touch, don't mind my foot hooking around your ankle. I'm grounding to fetch silence beneath cacophony. Scratch of ocean waves against beach, from white noise machine and breezes sneak through window, weathering tape. I love isolating it. You're breathing. The long and heavy inhale, exhale, which never seems to end, tides tied to another inhale. Each night, distant honks drown out by hum of lamps dropping streetlight. Incandescent buzz becomes Embarcadero on ramp whoosh. A Honda Civic's push into wind, exiting the drift from behind a semi-truck, turns into the waves of my seat playlist on low. Finally, I can focus on your heartbeat. With each faint thump, I know my heart pumps more slowly. Muscles unflex from their work and loosen. It's like the brain does a plank above the body, starts arranging the day and traces memory. The surface of my gums raise from heavy flossing. Location of a clothing receipt misplaced in that space as I remember the photo I came across today. My mother's aunt and I in our only photo together. You took it. You met her the way you can never meet my mother. Alive, though cancerous, she smiled. Still, being alive, she grinned with that curve of upper lip always bent in, ready to say grace. I'm so grateful she taught me to believe I was handsome by simply saying it. Even after that 7th grade fight with busted lip from the bully who kept calling me green and pulling my shirt. Dear Auntie, your smile was the same after a well-sung hymn, after some well-worded advice and a rhetorical, huh? How many ways can we grow through the power of repetition? I was listening, intently, moved by you like a semi-truck's tires on the highway. Where have you gone? My last memory of you, asking if I could visit while you lie in hospice as I exited a BART train in a city 3,000 miles away. Now, I'm on the margin of sleep, noticing my partner's foot twitch. I'm breathing more slowly, and my heartbeat matches hers. For the few seconds I'm awake, we keep the same time. I wonder if we all simply move in the same direction. Old white cashiers who place receipts on counters instead of my hand. Ocean tides rise to become more ocean. The galaxy tumbling through intergalactic way. The universe rotating and expanding. Aunt Saritha closing her eyes for the final time. We can't stop moving, any of us. We have traveled from some universal atoms throughout time and space to end up here and human until we make it to the next place. Thank you. Oh. What am I like on time?
You've got about 5 minutes, Kevin. Go for it.
I was like, oh, that should be about right. But okay, there's 5. One more. I'll do one more poem then. Shout out to Cincinnati Review. His poems in the spring issue. Be Smooth. Actually, written around the same time I got this shirt at Martha's Vineyard too. At the Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing. Definitely check out Amazing Things. Highly, 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 highly recommend it. And shout out to Marcus Wicker selecting a poem that got me the fellowship that got me there, and to amazing donors. Be smooth. Also, one more shout out. This was like a mixtape. It'd be like that crazy one at the end of Food and Liquor, Lupe. But to Alexander Weinstein, who this actually came from an exercise that we did in one of the workshops. So be smooth. Be easy. Be smooth enough that you don't have to be as hard as a 4-year-old saying hydrangeas, is what he'd say. Set it as slick as an ice cube sliding on itself, or as a puck coasting towards goal. Maybe that's what made him a Boston weed man, or maybe being a weed man made him say it. Either way, I'm sure he'd be happier in California. He said his cousin told him that once, but warned him it was hot as fresh tar. Though he would never leave his daughter, so it didn't matter, but he loved it cold. Or rather, he loved bundling up. Or was it he just loved shopping for clothes? In other words, he was a fashionista, a ghetto fashionista, if there were such things. There are such things. Last time we spoke, he had bought $400 sunglasses because he liked the new brand Rascal. Or was it that he liked the new brand Rascal because they charged $4 for sunglasses? Last time I saw him was at the beach, his brown skin glistening with purple-orange sunset sand and smiles. He said, be smooth, back heel first into the ocean. Thank you. Thanks once again to
All right, Kevin.
amazing hosts. Thank you again, Arthur, for the invite. And thank you all for being here. And to Jesse, came before, and Jade as well. Like, y'all killed it. Thank you.
Kevin, thank you so much for your reading, man. I was thinking about pulling a couple notable moments for me at 8:30. You said impromptu hoodies, and I started to immediately think about if my hoodie followed me around during the evening, and to just immediately just impromptu jump onto my back and pull the hoodie over me. That was a great moment for me. The other, ghetto fashionista. That's like $1 million phrase right there. We could sell that to like TJ Maxx, bro. I'm telling you, get rich off of it. Anyway, Kevin, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have you in the house. You can link up with Kevin, check out the chat. The rest of the Mad Mouth team has been blowing you up, and everybody loved your performance tonight. So thank you again, Kevin. All right, everybody, do me a favor. Everybody take a deep breath in and out. One more time. And out. You're at 8:57. It is time for the open list. 7 minutes per poet. Please welcome, first up, Martina Gallegos.
Thank you. Hopefully I don't fall asleep reading. Okay, so my first piece is called Earth's Hughes. We are children of the earth, holding our breath as we walk, lest we make a move that will end our lives because of our skin color, or because we may be holding a cell phone or a toy. We are children, the sun colored with the perfect hues, whose beauty only Mother Earth cuddles as precious creatures, nurturing, loving, and providing us with a safe haven from hearts who can't see love. We are children of the earth, who create a rainbow from the many hues Mother Nature provides for the world to enjoy, and we praise our ability to endure and preserve the injustices committed against us. We are children of the earth, whose complexions may cause fear in people who can't see past color and choose instead to focus on stereotypes because it's easier than to love us for our virtues. We are children of the earth who have dreams and goals that we want to make come true in order to contribute to a better world for ourselves and a future void of hatred towards children tended by the sun. We are children of the earth who want to feel free and safe playing with our friends wherever we can breathe clean, fresh air without constantly having to fear for our lives. So, we are children of the earth who want to live in homes not meant for animals and want to be with our families and share our dreams together because we are not supposed to be sleeping with foil for blankets. We are children of the earth who only want and deserve equal opportunity and treatment under the laws meant to protect our lives regardless of age, height, social economics, or how we perceive our leaders. We are children of the earth who feel and think just like any other children, but we must try harder than others to be able to make our lives better or face the wrath of a society that refuses to see our good traits. This one is called Winter. Mountain summits covered of white, like the sweet grate of knowledge, from which youth enjoy and learn about past seasons. Winter that makes teeth shiver, but offers warmth, sharing with loved ones childhood stories. Winter, end of a road filled with challenges and pleasant memories that loved ones now enjoy, watching the sugar-covered caps. Cold penetrates deep thoughts left in the past, but that come alive when the sun shines and the sky smiles. Winter, stage of return to time past to conserve again tales of grandparents. Winter, so white like grandma's hair, who caresses children like fun in the snow. Time to create memories for future generations while grandmother's own come to life once more. Okay, next one. Sweet lime tree. From You Harvest What You Sow. I once planted a few sweet lime seeds in small pots and placed the pots between trash cans. I watered and rotated to give them sun so they could have a better chance at life, hoping one day I'd have a sweet lime tree. For a few days, I kept a watchful eye on the small pots and knelt close to them to look for signs of life, even when my knees would hurt and almost bleed. When I saw that nothing was happening, I stopped watering and rotating the small pots and didn't kneel to check for life again. Well, someone must have gotten the wrong message, because soon I found myself in the hospital, clotted by a stroke and in coma. I saw and heard many things that never happened, and I saw lush green lawns that did not exist, and all the desert storms only happened in my diaper. Even the mariachi band was an illusion, and the mall was in another town, and my daughter never got to buy her clothes. When life came back to my brain, I found myself in a place I didn't want to be, but among people who really cared. One day I returned home, sweet home, and when I was able to walk again, I went out to check the pots between the trash cans, and I almost jumped from joy at what I saw weakly peeking out of the small pots. 3 pale-looking seedlings, and now one is a tree. Last one, I think. Media naranja. A dwarf naveled orange tree for a tiny yard that needed more green than just weeds to bring its owner brighter days and light the darkness of her soul. Store-bought was the precious tree, nothing extravagant, just as plain as can be. So it found a home smack in the middle of the dreamy and waiting little yard. Ladybugs and butterflies soon found a home among the leaves, and even hummingbirds perched on its branches, and the dwarf navel orange tree was as happy as could be. Then one day, when the fruit was ripe, its owner tasted a juicy orange, and it was the best she'd ever tasted. But the tree lacked a larger place. Through despair and conflict, its owner yanked the tree off its roots, and over the fence it went and landed in an empty planter. Months later, its owner transplanted it, and it now thrives and thrives again, because after flying over the fence, it landed on a different place. This sweet media naranja has had more lives than a 9-liver, but then again, it must be like the saying that a pet resembles its owner. Bam!
Thank you, Martina. Pleasure to have you on the stage. You're officially first open reader of Mad Mouth Poetry, so will forever be Mad Mouth's first open poet.
Thank you. So,
All right. On deck, Anthony Fungari or Fungari. Please, I apologize. Please correct me when I call you up. Please welcome to the stage Mark Zegans.
Thank you. It was so great hearing everyone tonight. Just wonderful readings. And Kevin, man, you just killed it. Just loved your reading. I'm going to read you 3 poems tonight. This first one is called El Poema de la Caja, the poem of the box. It goes like this. It's a love poem. Your walls, summer citrus, salamander, yam, skip-troweled Spanish lace, traveling beside stained and polished concrete floors, the color of mole calabradito, resting in a bisque earthen bowl, undulate like your hips under the red silk dress you wore the night we met. They are as if your dance was transmuted to frame, fixed yet flowing, carving and cleaving space after your ringed and bangled arms rose to the June sky, the tips of your fingers kissing clusters of stars, moving them into shapes and patterns never seen. The firmament erased, replaced in a moment with the surety and delight, the heavens your canvas, matter and light your paint, the swirl of the starry night you made, brought down by hand to this house of stucco and flame, cactus and rain, copper and stone, a seed, a root, a branch, a shrine, a stair to an altar, a veer awakening at the landing beneath the final flight of tiled risers, painted and fired in the domed kiln behind this house, filled with mesquite, fixing the signs you gathered in your sleep on the roof, beside the parapet in the bed of forged frame and white embroidered sheets. This house, a container for the dreams channeled through your heaving body, covered by loose woven white cotton, red threaded along the opening at your throat, your black hair spread thick on the pillow, your face turned to the moon, ornamented order rising on your in-breath, passing to the walls on your exhale, buon fresco, set by morning, the murals of the day, dancing before children, rubbing early sun eyes as you squeeze oranges into cobalt blue glass, then sit before plated huevos con chorizo, bare feet, a fork, cool floor. So that one's El Poema de la Caja. The next one is a political poem. I wrote this 2 days after 45 was elected, and this gave rise to the first anthology of protest poetry that was published after that awful day in 2016. It was called #NotMyPresident. And so this poem is from that. It's called Love in the Ruins, which is a reference to a Walker Percy novel. And it goes like this. It's real sad for me because when I wrote this, people said, "Oh, give him a chance." And I said, "I know what's coming." And 4 years later, this poem could have been written yesterday. When we institute treason, electing a man for no season, who plays to our less, not more, who plies lies as a promise, loading them amorally upon us, perverting the meaning of honest, while in CA we legalize chronic, turning homegrown into industry tonic, having lost all sense of the ironic, making spray tan pumpkin man iconic, and the voice of our youth less than sonic, as we lament our calling him comic, when we could have prevented this edifice, a KKK builder's own Oedipus, who flies higher than Daedalus, making our life needlessly perilous, so as to fill the gaping orifice left by policies that make poor of us, the more and the more and the more of us, by the ancient lies of the trickle down, a toxic drip soiling liberty's gown, carving a crack to the hateful underground that he callously fracked to seize the crown. We may feel that there is no place for us in this bigoted term calamitous, our insiders turning quickly vomit us as we fear posse comitatus, violence against other foisted upon us by casino man eager to con us as we turn to Imperium Don US, the Donald the Trump, the Donald the Weak, curtailing journalists' freedom to speak, scapegoating brothers he labels as freaks and sisters he wants to throw to the sheets, but we'd be wrong. As Percy predicted, we're a nation conflicted, differences depicted as qualities wicked, illegals would blight us if they contain no whiteness. Muslims might incite us while refugees bite us and Latinos fright us while black bodies clatter with lives that don't matter, so easy to spatter. Traffic violation, rights alienation in our lynch mob nation, a Breitbart station of hate, but still it's not too late. We lie in ruins of exceptional state. Love is our technology of freedom. People taking to the streets, we need them to remind us that in this tower's collapse, the puncturing of elite illusion, dust rising in a cloud of confusion, there is strength in the tears of those who weep, of those who climb over electoral heap, in the dreams of the 59 million who formed a loving coalition, grounded in the noble proposition that all lives are created equal, that Black lives matter and white workers too, that love transcends the way that we screw, that Latino, Asian, Muslim, and Jew, Native peoples, minaret and church steeples weave the fabric of this great nation. Founded in the shining declaration, we hold these truths to be self-evident. And in the poem at the lady's door, give us your tired, your hungry, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. Strength in knowing that we can still go high, that love is the motive, the reason why, the promise will never die. So open your hearts as wide as the sea and fill them with love and liberty. Raise your voices in the street and make great art. Pick up the stock of this turned over cart. Don't give in to the Republican lie. Don't become passive and never comply. Cry and shriek and tear out your hair, but don't let the bastards make you despair. Higher we'll go, there's room for us all, because love is big and Trumpism's small.
Nice, thank you, Mark.
And if I've got time, just one more simple one, or am I out?
You've got a minute. Give it to us.
Okay, so this one's called San Francisco. Kevin and I used to read in a thing called the Poetry Brothel in San Francisco. And so there's a poem from the Poetry Brothel after that. Hard talk against an empty wall. Does it bounce off or is it absorbed? A canvas of silt moving sediment as paint, reductions of thick finding bottom color. Removing the mask, I shed all value in this room of kink. Can we begin something here, she wonders, speaking through me to her broken parts. Van Ness, concrete and jumble, a broken spine that once led to the head of this city that reminded and remaindered its soul. Bob's Donuts on Polk, 2 a.m., limited, cheap, grease and sugar and green light, has heart and offers kindness to this hungry, broken soul who read his heart out into an empty room and perhaps saved one before taking whore's wages, then exiting the now empty house of pleasure, mask in a bag, unloved, utterly alone.
Thank you, Mark. I still have a token from the Poetry Brothel in Los Angeles in my glove box in my car, just in case I ever stumble into another Poetry Brothel. I'll have a token with me.
Excellent.
Pleasure to have you, Mark. Glad to have you here. All right, on deck, D'Amica Thomas, Please welcome Anthony Fangari.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody that went before. It was awesome. I'm going to read a couple diary entries. I've been working on a lot of epistolary pieces lately. Dear Diary, my fridge is filled with rotting mangoes. They remind me of my family. The rimmed skin, fragrant, exotic juice spilling, softening like a stain dabbed with water. I stare at them, my mango family, thumb the skin and pray I'll get to eat them before the gold browns to a sludge. And all I have left is a pit and fruit flies in my fridge. Dear Diary, Diaspora is a city and I feel like a pigeon, toeless, nesting wire and string instead of branches, pecking asphalt for crumbs like answers, like sand. Dear Diary, God is an edgeless circle, something like a dry eraser, cutting lines in a ribbon, pulling smoke. Dear France, you're an old excuse for a new country, a thief of a timepiece, keeping tabs on nothing but drywall, but myself, an apple rotting from the seed, a dieback, collapsing trees. Dear Europe, you are the trigger that pulls sugar from strings, a residue on my mother's lips, mouthing merci with a crowbar smile, a porcelain shell smoking my sister's tongue, covered in bile, cigarette slag, sopping dried skin from my father's scalp, stacking dust like an empty hallway. Dear Diary, I think I've lost myself altogether. I prefer watching my laundry toss to a fire blazing, and I've begun to feel that heaven is a place where white babies come with warning labels and flags are just fabric. Dear United States, I was 17 and blacked out, relieving myself on a tree, and you tackled me. It was poetic. The red and blue lights flashing with the warmth of urine on my leg, while your knee drove into my spine. I was American. For the first time, I was yours. Dear Mama, we don't need God in America. I promise it's a blessing. Dear Diary, her mother asked, does he smell Arab? I imagine sour cream, rusted leather. Dear Diary, a white writer said, I was lucky to have all this culture to write about. I was a performance piece to him. I was art, sexy, colorful, exotic, spotted, loud like a misplaced auxiliary tip. The kind of art you look at and say, I could have done that if. Like this culture is more than burnt hair, American flags, and new names. Dear Diary, a dead pigeon almost landed on me today. Fleshed out with the beak of another bird, all that remained was the skin and purple tissue linking to the spine. It reminded me of my accent, how when I was in Egypt, I asked for the bathroom, Hamem. And a woman replied in English, why do you want a pigeon? I tongued my teeth. The crunch of the skull on asphalt brought water to my mouth. The sound was crisp, like a glass bottle bouncing on a rock without breaking. Dear Morsi, you died in prison. I imagine you swimming, a fish in gasoline, gills dripping, shaking through streams of ink. Dear Dad, you are not a rotten banana. No, you are a plantain. And then do I have time to read one more? Or, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. This is called khara, which is Arabic for shit. I read about some of the museums in France, about the stolen artifacts displayed in France, a strained cultural exchange of speaking of art, one that remains a verse of echo, just of France. My mother was young when they taught her the language, like imprints filling in the creases, throating France, a tade of tongue marks becomes something of status, something of luck, drawing sludge for a trace of France. Nile bones and parts freckled across museums. Just like other Europeans, just like France, stories of the French shooting the nose off the Sphinx. Erasure, if not a gesture, spelling France. I spent nights in liquor stores talking with Arabs, trying to tighten my tongue between blunts, between France. I learned to love myself in these liquor stores. I learned that I was worth loving in these liquor stores, oasis of rappers, of self, of reflection, of people thinking that I work at the liquor store. Whiskey befell a lone connection to home. Sheldon repeat, swallowing stiff in liquor stores, drunk driving with one eye open at 17, the dry bleat passing, hey mister, out liquor stores. I try to tighten my tongue between blunts and swigs, palate pricking balm, communion like liquor stores. Sometimes I'm sober. Devoid of identity, a tendency to pull, to clog, to liquor stores, entry layered like lacquer on plastic pigments, plastic bottles, plastic blunt wraps in liquor stores. I've learned to love our letters here. The turns of sound. The closest I came to Egypt was liquor stores. Broken cot twigs cleaved between cheeks in liquor stores. Temptations held St. Anthony like liquor stores. Thank you. That's it.
Oh,
Thank you,
holy
everybody.
shit. Anthony, forgive me while I pick up my face because you melted it off. Anthony, thank you so much for being here tonight. On deck, Maya Alexandria, please welcome D'Amica Thomas.
Hello. The first poem I have is a love poem, which I don't normally do, but it's from like a year ago when I was gay and sad and listening to a lot of Frank Ocean. So this is Just Friends. Now you say we're just friends, and I guess everything before was just a dream. I dreamt the way you looked at me, or the cadence in your sugar-coated tongue when you said my name, and I dreamt the roses that you procure with your laughter. I'm sure there are many things that I dreamt, like the day in your room, candy-coated tongue painted blue, the smell of vodka and vanilla on your hoodie, or the way you told me that you were dangerous, only half joking, a smile that didn't meet your eyes, your hand warm and soft in mine. And I know you have to go. I can feel it in the stilted parting lines of, let's just be friends. But before you go, can you do me one last favor? Leave the flowers of your laughter behind. And then can you give me some time? When winter comes with its frosty embrace, when the flowers have wilted and died, when I have forgotten the way your eyes crinkle when you smile, and how often you smile when you're explaining physics to me, or the cartilage piercing you have that is shaped like a screw, and the way you laugh when it gets caught in my hair, or the exact faded black color of your Doc Martens, and the way your favorite brown floral skirt hangs over them, or the freckles sprinkled across your nose, and the way you crinkle them when you laugh, or how your thigh felt pressed against mine while we watched Spirited Away and drank rosé in your bed, or the dark bags under your eyes as we sipped coffee in the campus cafe, sitting across from each other like straight girls, and how I nod along while you talk about the cute boys in your lab, or how you told me that I was getting too attached. This was just casual, just a bit of fun experimentation. You were going to Florida for the summer. You needed space. You had an internship with NASA. There's some irony in there somewhere, but I haven't figured out how to laugh at it yet. Once I have forgotten all of this, when it has faded into smoke and reminiscence, maybe then we can try again. Maybe then we can just be friends. So that's the first one. The second one is going to be a lot different. So it's about sexual harassment. 12. The first time I was catcalled, I was 12. He called me Mamacita. It slithered like a snake from his lips and tightly coiled around my neck, expelling all words. I wish I could tell you that I shouted back, that I was a brave warrior, someone who could make my ancestors proud, but I was not brave. I was not a warrior. I was 12. And at 12 you are, legs too long for your body, arms swinging like a monkey's limbs, awkward and too long, unable to stay still, with all your gangly parts struggling to form something that makes sense. Your breasts barely forming, stuffing your training bra to convince your mom to buy you a real one. Your hair's growing too many new places, wondering if you're a freak. You are barely 90 pounds, with fists too small to fight, and you still don't know the meaning of the word misogyny. So you don't know what to say when a man twice your age shouts your beauty at you. You are the Nancy Drew novel tucked under your arm and your mouth betraying you with its silence. You are too young to understand your own body. So when someone claims their stake on it, on you, you don't argue. You smile, like the pretty girls on the covers of the glossy magazines, the ones who bask in the glory of their own objectification. They are smart enough to know that this is the easiest way for a woman to thrive. The first time I was catcalled, I was 12. I did not fight back. I smiled, pretending to be flattered, and I walked home with my head down the whole way so that Nancy Drew could not judge me from under my arm. I accepted it, as I did each time it happened again. I became a statue, something men came to admire before moving on to the next piece. I was 12, and I would grow up with men shouting names at me that I did not ask for, names that I did not even know the meaning of yet. I would grow up in a world where my sexuality was not my own. The first time I was catcalled, I was 12. That's all I have, Cyrus.
Mika, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your honesty in sharing that work with us. We see you and we hear you and we stand with you. Thank you. Actually, to close this out, sorry ideas, you can spit poems at me over the phone tomorrow or tonight, later. We've got our one and only Maya Alexandria. Take us home.
Hey everyone. All right, so I'm gonna read a poem that I actually unearthed today and I forgot I wrote about, I think it was a year ago. It's called Dancing Dionysius. Heavy limbs swing sway to the sounds of what's supposed to be music in a room too crowded for dancing. Strobe lights force close the ashen eyes that have long been shut, with only her likeness to moisten their drought. The lights pass through the crystals dewing her skin as her fluidity rallied into a war dance, and the flutter of her leopard dress enticed the crowd to join her. As she washed down the taste of a man's death, who still lies listlessly on her conquered land with wine that loosened the sticky victory that clung to her throat, her many groupies watched with gaping awe as if she plucked the grape in each of their mouths. How beautiful, how frightening, how mortal, how divine, how... Oh, fuck it. Someone call her an Uber. Thank you. All right. Let's see. I'm kind of missing my family recently, so I really wanted to read a poem about our heritage in New Orleans and specifically about my grandfather too. I just made a binder of handwritten poems and sent it off to him, so he's been on my mind for these past couple days. So let's do A Feast for Two. My Mimi and Papa aren't married anymore. In fact, I don't think their tongues have known the spice of the other's name on their palate since before my own splendid entrance into the universe. I'd bet you anything in the world that those two could drink from the broth of the other's Louisiana sun-dried memories and savor those chunks of Andouille dialect till the itis interrupts their feast for the last time. Thank you. We'll stick with the food theme and go with Please Tell the Chef next. Please tell the chef. I thought her etouffee was to die for. My tongue snuggled into that creamy love, breathing in the subtle seasoning of her anguish that thickens like rue in her belly. The celery she grew with screaming songs tames her tears when she first hears her baby's outstanding onion lungs. Then she realizes she can't salt and pepper him to taste. Thank you. All right, let's go with I'm actually going to do the poem I most recently wrote, I think last week. Still untitled, and it's pretty much still the first draft because I'm still messing with the language and getting familiar with it in my heart. So, Untitled. I have the soldier's disease, a mind like a landmine, a bullet-binged body still riddled with aftershock, and a section of sentiments facing an identity crisis. There are plenty of pills, yet at the same time not enough. Not enough sleep, but plenty of nightmares of the enemy invading my home port. And honestly, how can you eat the powdered eggs, sausage, and perpetual cereal while the stabbing of fork to plate and plate to fork sounds like demonic deities singing along to the acoustics of AK-47s? I'd like to know because according to the FDA, I haven't eaten correctly in 5 years. When I was diagnosed with my disease, I traded in my blueberry uniform and dressed for a funeral parade. I aspired to be the forgotten sailor cap off the coast of Okinawa, far away, so very far away, drifting further and further away from Japan's shores because I'd rather face a tsunami than to touch those shores or to hear the laughter of the waves crashing against the cliffs where the off-duty sailors jump to for entertainment because they have memorized their rank but have forgotten their names. I looked at my dog tags and thought about swallowing them. At times they waved to my uvula. But those damn SERE courses always kick in and pull them right back out of my throat. I'm told to do something creative so I can bandage bullet wounds without bleeding out. But how can you sit and write when I can barely sleep, lie down and sleep? But I'm a soldier, so I persevere. After all, this is a labor of love. And when I say this is a labor of love, right now it's more labor than love, but damn it, I'm still madly in love. So I will labor for that love until love is no longer a labor. Because how can I really be a soldier if I won't die for myself? If I won't shield a grenade for myself? If I can't carry myself off the battlefield? Because no woman left behind. Thank you. And I'm gonna end with a poem I wrote a long time ago, but it's kind of cool to look at now, and I think I'm gonna try and revamp it pretty soon. So it's called I Am. I am the daughter and sister, and should she acknowledge me after her tuna treats, maybe the mother too. I'm also the bastard daughter of Chopin and Hemingway's fine arts, as I am the Dionysiac human who lives for the sweet breath of exasperation from Apollo as I frolic with wine in my hand. And meanwhile, I am the fruit of Africa's screams as Napoleon's hands groped her Kilimanjaro and invaded her Victoria Falls, because I am the caged pixie thrown into the closet by the man in white, only escaping by holding her breath in her hands. Meanwhile, I am the tapping foot, the restless finger, the forehead vein surfacing for air. No, for the love of God, you can't touch my hair, because I am spirit in human form. I am the feminine in this skin and the next for all eternity, because I am humanity's lover, skin kissed with bruises and welts, but still serving and devoted all the same, because I am. Who am I? I will tell you. I am, and that is who I am meant to be. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, lovely to hear your words, Maya.
Thank you.
Powerful as always. Well, folks, that's our time. Thank you so much for being here. Ideas, Arthur, Ruth, I see you. If you want to spit poems at me, well, Ruth, you can just walk over down the hall. Arthur, you can call me. Ideas. I'm just going to give you a megaphone so that you can reach the entire planet for us because, you're the world's MC, bro. So, thank you again for coming. I could not do this. This entire project would not be possible without our co-hosts and our co-founders, Ideas, Ruth, Arthur, Maya, Danica. Kevin, thank you so much for your work. You were just an absolute pleasure to listen to. And put your info again in the chat. And open readers, if you have social media, if you have a website, drop your info in the chat. We want to connect with you. We want to continue the poetry off stage as well as on stage. So thank you again. Be safe, wear a mask, kick some ass, and we'll see you next week, August 22nd, where our feature is Douglas Manuel. Good night. Thank you, guys. Ideas, spin some tunes for us, fam. I'm going to unmute everybody. Feel free to talk, chat, and Maya, if you could take us off Facebook Live. That's it. Mad Mouth is out.